Yesterday, Sayadaw spoke about the principle of only if one observes at the moment of arising will one see sabhava, or true nature. And the word arising can be replaced by seeing at the moment of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, bending, stretching, lifting, moving, placing, rising, falling, sitting, touching, starting from the very smallest actions such as blinking and opening and closing the eyes. This word arising encompasses everything that we can observe. And Sayadaw explained this principle in detail so that the yogis would understand. Today he needs to continue to explain about the practice. Only if we observe at the moment of arising. So Sayadaw explained that this word arising can mean many things. What is it that is arising? Mind and matter, nama and rupa. That's all. At the moment of hearing, there's mind and matter and mind occurring together. There's the ear base, which has the capacity to receive sound, so it's called the receptor element. And there's the sound wave, which strikes the ear. It's called the striker element. And when sound strikes the ear base, then there's a spark. There's hearing consciousness. The knowing of the sound arises, and the mind and the sound meet. They contact each other in the ear. There's also feeling. And these are what are easy to observe, these things. Other elements are also involved in the moment of hearing, but these are what can be observed readily, and this is what the Buddha pointed out. There are other elements that are automatically involved in the time of hearing, but we give priority to observing what is obvious. And when we do this, when we observe what is obvious, what is evident, apparent, then those other elements which are not obvious, not easy to see, are automatically included. Today Sayadaw would like to continue to speak about these elements called the base or receptor, the striker, and the spark. From the time we're quite young, most of us probably have used matches. And people may be familiar with matches that come in a box. So on the outside of the box, there's a strip where one can strike the match. The match there's a stick with a match head on it. And when you strike the match head on the strip that's on the box, there's a spark that occurs. So this spark that occurs is it's not there when the match box and the match are kept separately, but together when the match head strikes the strip on the matchbox, then the spark appears. So this spark is not in either the match head or in the strip that is on the box, but these are both ready when one is struck upon the other. These are both involved in creating the spark. And it's similar with the mind and matter that are in our beings. Within us, there's rupa and nama, mind and matter, matter and mind, which act as receptors. And there's also rupa and nama, which act as striker elements. And there's also those which act as the spark. They function as the spark. And when conditions are favorable, then these come into existence as base, striker, and spark. So the yogis should understand this analogy for understanding what happens in their bodies. People who understand this analogy will understand that when we observe at the moment of arising, for example, when we observe at the moment of hearing, there is an ear base. Within the ear, a receptor that receives whatever sound waves strike it. And there are sound waves which come and strike the ear base. And moment by moment, hearing occurs. Knowing of the sound and the mind and the sound, they meet, they contact each other in the ear. If the sound is a pleasant one, then it feels good. If the sound is an unpleasant one, then it doesn't feel good. The contact, knowing of the sound, contact, and feeling are nama, or mental. These are what are the most obvious mental factors involved in the moment of hearing. And it's referred to as the spark element. So we should understand this, first of all, in terms of the theory. In hearing, there are these three elements: the receptor or base element, the striker element, and the spark. These three, the base, the striker, and the spark, are apparent when hearing happens. They're not apparent after hearing has already happened. They're not apparent before it happens. We're not able to see, to know the ear is the base, the sound is the striker, the hearing consciousness as the spark before these things happen. It can only be observed, these three can only be observed while hearing is happening. And an analogy for this is that if we want to see lightning in the sky, we have to look at the sky when the lightning flashes. And as it happens, if we're looking, then we'll see it. After it's already flashed, we can't see it anymore. And before it flashes, we also can't see it. We have to look at the sky when the lightning happens. And if we do that, we will see that the darkness is dispelled. Lightning functions to dispel the darkness. We will see where it flashes. It flashes in the sky. And we will also see how it flashes. It may appear crooked, it may appear curved or like a hand. So when we see lightning flash, we will know one of these three things. And if we want to know about lightning, then we have to observe it while it is flashing. So it's similar when we observe at the moment of hearing. If we want to know the base, the striker, and the spark, we have to observe at the moment of hearing. And when we do, we will know one of three things. We'll either know where the hearing is happening. It happens at the ear. We'll know, or else we'll know that it's sound striking the ear. Or else we will know that there's, if we're aware of the mind, we'll know the qualities of knowing the sound, the hearing consciousness, or the contact between the mind and the sound, or the feeling good or bad. We'll know one of these three. We won't know all of them all at once. And similarly with lightning, when we observe lightning at the very moment it's flashing, we'll either know where it is flashing, or we'll know its function, its nature, that it dispels darkness, or we'll know its shape. Just as if we focus on the sky at the moment the lightning flashes, we will see the lightning. So too, if we observe with the method of Satipatthana at the moment of hearing, we will know the hearing, and the mind will not go anywhere else. It will be collected. The mind will not have any greed, wanting. The mind will also not have any anger, hatred, forms of dosa. These two defiling qualities will be eliminated at the moment of hearing. The mind will be focused on the hearing. And this mind that is focused on the hearing and is clean is called the bhavana mind. At the moment of hearing, there's the base, the receptor, that is, the striker and the spark. And among these three, one of them, some one of these three will become evident to the yogi. The yogis come to know these three later. But to know, one has to observe the process of hearing as a whole, as hearing. The ear and sound, two parts are physical. The ear, that means the ear base, the receptor element, made up of many, many physical particles, and the sound, the striker element. The ear and the sound, two parts are physical. Hearing, contact, feeling, these are mind. The knowing of the sound, hearing consciousness, the contact between the mind and the sound, and the feeling, good or bad. These three are called the spark element. They're mental. So ear and sound, two parts are physical. Hearing, contact, feeling, these are mind. In the hearing, the truth of suffering is found. If you want to know about these, don't let yourself think about whether it's the base, the striker, or the spark. You just have to note it as a whole thing, hearing. That's how we have to note and know it. Only if we observe it as a whole will we know the hearing process. Just as when we observe lightning at the time it flashes, we'll know the place where the lightning happened. Or we'll understand that it lights up the sky. We'll know its function. Or we'll know its manner of flashing, how it looks. We'll know one of these. In the hearing, it's like this. We know one of the three parts. Even before knowledge arises, when one notes hearing as it happens, the mind won't run anywhere else. It'll be collected. To observe hearing as soon as hearing arises, one has to be prepared. One has to make a concerted effort. And this effort is the opposite of laziness. Laziness is a very base and low quality. And the mind with energy, the mind that is ready to observe, is a high-level mind. So when the mind that has energy, virya, arises, then sati sticks to this process of hearing, the group of things that are involved in the moment of hearing. And sati sticks to this, is established on the hearing. And at that time the mind doesn't run anywhere. It's calm, and collected. And this is sati. Sati protects the mind so that defilements don't enter into the mind. And when this happens, then the mind stays right there. It said, and this is concentration or samadhi. It said, avikepo samadhi. When there is samadhi, there's no restlessness, there's no remorse or worry. And at this time, there are three factors involved: virya or effort, sati or mindfulness, samadhi and concentration. If we weren't to apply energy, and therefore sati wouldn't arise and the collected mind would become dispersed, scattered, and then turn to kilesas. Because we are applying effort, which brings sati and samadhi, the mind is instead calm and collected. This calm, collected mind is occurring. And if we make one noting every second, then in a minute, this clean mind, pure mind, is happening 60 times. But even if we only note every other second, still, if the mind that contains the factors of virya, effort, sati, mindfulness, and samadhi, concentration, occurs every other second, then there will be 30 times in a minute of this pure mind occurring. The mind also needs the help of the jhanic factor of aiming, so that the mind will meet the object accurately. And when that happens, there won't be any thinking about sense pleasures, kama vitaka. There won't be any anger, vyabhara vitaka. There won't be any thinking about angry things, and there won't be any wanting to harm others. So this factor of aiming that makes the mind meet the object accurately, aiming or vitaka, is a jhanic factor. With the method of Satipatthana, we need to have the factors of virya, sati and samadhi, effort, mindfulness and concentration, and we also need to aim so that the mind meets exactly with the object, so that it connects with the object accurately. The yogi's job is to make sure that these factors are always involved. When the yogis are observing with Satipatthana, as the yogis are now, first of all, ardent effort is very important. To get the mind to reach every arising object as soon as it arises, we need to push the mind. We need to give it a push so that it will get to the object. We need to do this every second of the time. And if we don't apply energy, the mind won't get to the object. If the energy is weak, then the mind won't get there completely. If the effort we apply is excessive, too strong, then the mind will slip off the object. So we have to get the mind to the object, but we also need to have the mind focused properly. We need to use the quality of aiming, which is a jhanic factor. This helps us to get the mind to be, to have the right amount of effort. And this aiming is called in Pali vitaka. Sayadaw spoke about how he used to play marbles when he was a young boy. And he had to practice in order to get the hang of learning how to shoot the marble. He needed to learn how to apply effort and also how to aim properly. And he had to practice a lot. But when he did, his aim became accurate, and he was able to hit the marble that he wanted to hit. And when his aim was accurate and his effort was just right, then he could hit the marble. And this type of contact of getting an accurate hit caused him to feel a lot of joy. People feel that when they see when they see that they've gotten an accurate hit. And when we practice also, the object arises, and we have to push the mind with our effort to make it reach the object. But we also need to aim the mind so that we are accurate, so that the mind is correctly meeting the object. And when these factors are both there and both at the right level, the effort and the aiming, then the mind becomes concurrent with the object. It's as though it rubs against the object. And when the yogi experiences that, joy arises. So it happens because there's application of energy, and with the aiming factor, one's observation is accurate, and the mind connects exactly with the object, becomes concurrent with the object, and then joy arises. So when a yogi gains skill in noting, the joy and well-being that arise are amazingly strong. And yogis who are practicing according to the method know this. Those who don't practice respectfully, who don't value the power of observation that can be gained in one moment of observation, who don't value every individual moment, for yogis like that, who shift whenever they feel a little bit of pain, who look here and there, for them there's no guarantee that they will experience this. But for yogis who practice with respect for the practice, with care and with continuity, it's guaranteed that they will experience this. Meditators need to stay still. They need to behave like adults. And if one has come to a meditation retreat, a place of practice, one needs to do what one sees other people doing. And so this means that one needs to not look here and there. One needs to, one can see, if you look a little bit, you can see that other people are keeping still and are restraining themselves and not just moving impulsively the way we do normally when we're on the outside. If a yogi just moves around the way they would ordinarily move if they were in their ordinary daily life, then that's not appropriate for the meditation center. When we're in battle facing the enemy, we have to listen to the officer's command. And when the officer says, get down, you have to do it. Aim, you've got to aim. Fire, you've got to fire. You have to listen to what the order is and do it. So if you don't, when you're in battle, you'll die by the enemy's bullet. So, similarly, if you don't listen to what is being said in the Dhamma talk for your benefit, that amounts to a lack of respect for the practice. And if one doesn't, we have to remember that if one does not follow the orders of the officer when we are in battle, then we will die very quickly from the enemy's bullets. So don't let that happen. when we live with other people, it's very important to be disciplined and to follow the rules. And if one just follows the rules in an ordinary way, one will get good results very quickly. Sayadaw is speaking so that the yogis will have respect for the practice. And when hearing, if one observes applying the necessary energies and the necessary mental energies, then even when one hears a sound that one likes, no greed or raga will arise. Even when one hears a sound that one doesn't like, there won't be any anger or frustration or distress. The fact that these don't arise is the benefit that the yogis get. This is how the yogis profit from the practice. The clean, pure mind is a mind that is being developed. What Sayadaw has been speaking about now is about how, for the yogi who practices respectfully and observes hearing, as soon as hearing arises, Sayadaw has explained about how greed and anger do not arise in the mind. And also with seeing. When seeing happens, seeing must be observed right at the very moment. When there's smelling, eating, drinking, touching, bending, stretching, rising, when there's thinking or planning, as soon as thinking or planning any object arises, it has to be observed right on the spot. And when one observes, there need to be two factors, ardent energy and aiming. And for this to happen, we have to initially be ready to observe. Without our initial preparation, it won't happen. Now when we have the opportunity to practice, the yogis should be patient and should be perseverant. One shouldn't switch their position often. So Sayadaw requests the yogis to please practice patiently. He urges you to please practice patiently. If you do, you will get a special benefit within a short period of time. Within just a few days, you'll see a distinct difference. Please respect the practice. And Sayadaw will speak tomorrow, because now the time is up. He will speak tomorrow about how to observe properly. That's all for today. Sadhu, 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 sadhu.